The vast majority of us are bad listeners, but many of us go through life not realizing this. When you're supposedly listening during a conversation, how often are you just waiting for the other person to stop talking so you can say what's on your mind?
Okay, we're having a conversation. I'm deciding I'm going to listen to you, right? That's different than how people generally communicate, because usually when they communicate, they're doing something like, okay, we're going to have a conversation and I'm going to tell you why I'm right and I'll win if you agree. Maybe you're trying to impress the person you're talking to, so you're not listening to them at all, you're just thinking about what you're going to say next.
See, there's a huge difference between listening to understand and simply waiting to respond. It's actually quite difficult to listen. If you don't think this is the case, then you're just not paying attention. Perhaps the number one reason we're bad at listening is because we fall hostage to our emotions and lose sight of the objective of the conversation. When discussions get intense, we feel threatened, and the amygdala, the part of our brain that processes fear, triggers the release of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol that leads to a fight or flight response, urging us to attack instead of listen and empathize. To make matters even worse, the amygdala also hinders our decision making by blocking access to the prefrontal cortex, which is critical to complex thinking and thoughtful social behavior. So without any conscious awareness, the mind plays a subtle trick on us and switches the goal of the conversation from understanding to dominating. No wonder it's hardest to listen when it matters the most. But even when we're not angry, we're generally quite bad at listening. We like to jump in, talk about ourselves, or offer advice.
So I don't know. I was frustrated. She was frustrated.
Oh, did I tell you who I ran into the other day?
It's hard to shake the feeling that our perspective is more important than the views of others. But to listen properly is to really follow the words and emotions of those who we are speaking to. And doing so requires putting the interests of others above ours, despite the natural impulse to do the opposite. To become more curious about what the other party is saying and less insistent on making our point. Effective listening is an active process that requires a high degree of focus, and this focus is vulnerable to external and internal distraction. In today's society, we are constantly connected through social media, text messages, emails, and so forth. Distractions are all around us, and our brains are not conditioned to maintain deep focus on a single task, conversations included. It is not our first instinct to listen and empathize. This has to be a trained response. But we can all dramatically improve our listening skills by using the following practical concepts. Firstly, approach each conversation with genuine curiosity.
You might have something to tell me, and so I'm going to listen on the off chance that you'll tell me something that would really be useful for me to know. Even though you're going to be overwhelmed with the proclivity to demonstrate that you're right, it is the case that two brains are better than one. And so maybe 9 of the 10 things they tell you are dispensable, or maybe even 49 out of 50, but one thing, all you need to get out of the damn conversation is one thing you don't know. If you have a conversation like that with someone, it will make both of you better.
Another critical idea to effective listening is to resist the urge to interject, no matter how tempting it may be. Talk less and listen more. Practice patience and allow the other party to finish their thoughts before jumping in. Lastly, learn to slow it down when emotions are high. When we are the most frustrated is when we least want to listen. During these moments, there's so much noise from our internal voice that we don't have the space to accommodate the voices of others. But by pausing for a moment and taking a breath, we can allow our emotions to settle and allow ourselves to reflect on whether we are truly listening or have fallen hostage to our emotions. There are no shortcuts to becoming a better listener, but these concepts, which take a ton of practice, will ensure that you are on the right path. When trying to improve our listening skills, it is best to focus on one of these concepts at a time. And although it's hard, the great thing about this is that there's an abundance of opportunity to hone our skills and become more effective listeners.